Dangerous than a snake bite. Whenever that I see you, you take away all the stage fright. You say, ooh la la, 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 hey, oh, ooh la la, 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 hey.
Hello, 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 hello. A pleasant good afternoon, good evening to all of you who are here this afternoon celebrating with us. Before we get into our program this afternoon, as usual, we would love to invoke God's presence, and I'm calling on Clive Smith, Brother Clive, to do that honors for us. Elder.
Good evening, everyone, and we are happy to be here. Let us be reverent now as we speak to the Lord. Oh, Father and our God, we thank you for all your wonderful blessings and mercies and protection that you have bestowed upon us. We thank you even for traveling mercies that have brought us here safe for the purpose for which we have come. Dear Lord, you have been so good to us. You have been our help in ages past, and you are our hope for years to come. We are here this evening because, O Lord, of your servant, Sister Cora Richardson Hodge. She has been a dedicated servant of the people of this land. She has made great contributions. And we believe that you, O Lord, is calling her to even higher leadership in this country. And we are here to endorse her and support her And we trust that everything will work wonderful this evening, and we all will be blessed because we claim it in Jesus' name. Amen. God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Brother Clive, Elder Clive. My fellow Anguillians, we are here this afternoon, of course, and it's not an official campaign, or it's not a campaign per se, but we are open and transparent with the people of Anguilla, the electorate, whether here at home or abroad. And when we do make decisions, we will always come to the people and explain to the people and inform the people of those decisions. Before we get into that, our hearts and our prayers go out to our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. If you were following the news and the events there, you'd realize that there's a lot of uncertainty that is taking place there with the eruption of La Sofria volcano. Our thoughts and prayers are with our Caribbean neighbors at this time. There is no doubt that across the Caribbean and across the world, individuals, organizations, governments are all doing their part in assisting St. Vincent and the Grenadines during these tough and turbulent times. And here in Anguilla, it's no different. There are a number of organizations. I believe it's the Red Cross and Seroptimus, and there is an Anguilla St. Vincent Association that is organizing various commodities and goods and services that will be shipped to St. Vincent in the coming days and weeks ahead. You can always donate to that cause through one of those organizations, and I'm sure that we in the Anguilla United Front will be organizing whatever we can in order to be able to help our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we must continue to keep them in our prayers and thoughts. My fellow Anguillians, this afternoon or this evening, we are here to address the people of our country, of our beloved country, to let you know that it is normal for political parties throughout the region, throughout the world, to have conventions. And certain decisions are made within or during conventions. And we are no different. But we are here to let you know that the Anguilla United Front, we are not changing our name, we are not changing our colors. We are not changing anything per se, except that we are transitioning. And we are transitioning, my fellow Anguillians, new leadership, new executive. The transitioning is taking place within the Anguilla United Front framework. The structure is already there. And I will talk a little bit more about it a little later on in the program. But just to let you know that the word transition is nothing to be afraid of. And while in certain dictionaries it would have a change, so to speak, it would have improvement, it would have growth, and there are a number of definitions for it. But I define it as moving forward, a change within a structured, principled, and experienced organization. So there's nothing to be afraid of. And we'll talk more about the foundation and the principles and the experience of this Angular United Front administration. We have a number of speakers. We have a team with us. And we would want to get started this afternoon by calling on Vanetta Richardson, who is the chair of the Women's Arm. Vanetta Richardson, chair of the Women's Arm. Please welcome her to the podium. Vanetta.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors. But let them know that we're moving up higher. It's higher we going. We moving, and we will never stop moving.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very pleasant good afternoon. We give God thanks for his guidance and his protection so that we all can be here this afternoon. Yesterday, we began our annual convention, during which the mantle of leadership was passed on to the new leadership team, now led by the Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge. Michelle McLean Walters, in her book, The Deborah Anointing, wrote in her introduction, embracing the call to be a woman of power and influence. She quoted Judges 5 and verse 7 in the New King James Version, which says, "Village life ceased. It ceased in Israel until I, Deborah, arose a mother in Israel." In other words, Cora, it's time to arise a mother in Anguilla. Today I am inspired by the writing of Michelle McLean Walters because I find it to be very appropriate in this time, season, and purpose. Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, the Lord has called you to extraordinary leadership and courage and has extended a great invitation to you to become a part of his story and to affect history. He is calling an ordinary woman like you into his extraordinary work of affecting change in the gate of politics and government. Every major political issue at its roots is about discerning truth and having the character to make a righteous decision. You have no aristocratic lineage, yet God has chosen to elevate you to high political power by the common consent of all your peers present here today. Make no mistake about it. Embracing this marvelous calling of God is not easy or glamorous. There will always be obstacles to overcome and seemingly more attractive ways to live. Yet, God has called you to live as his ambassador among the nation. Be an advocate for spreading his love and making an eternal difference in the lives of those who you are called to serve in this governance sphere of influence. As the world changes and normal life is no longer the same, stronger leaders are required to lead with vision, innovation, and sound problem-solving skills, decorum, and empathy. We are proud. We are delighted to have you as our new leader. We are confident that you will shape the morale of the party, suggest solutions to societal ills, and the ability to discern the gifting of those who are in the organization to work on the necessary policies and programs to influence the gates of family and future development, governance, economy, education, media and communication, science and technology, arts, sports, culture, and our godly belief system. The entire party, as well as others, are looking forward to working with you to continue to improve the lives of all Anguillians. The historian, Mr. Codwell L. Petty, OBE, wrote in his book, Anguilla's Battle for Freedom, 1967 to 1969, and I quote, "When the history of Anguilla is truly written, it would have to be said that whatever Anguilla achieved was achieved because of the women. When the island was invaded, the men did not face the guns, the women did." With that in mind, we are confident that Mrs. Cora Richardson Hart will lead us in the right direction. As we embrace and we receive you, we are overjoyed that you have accepted the challenge. Indeed, with your experience and dedication, we are assured that we will accomplish remarkable things together for our beloved Anguilla and the generations to come. You are a phenomenal woman, an inspiring great leader, and we are excited to see you stand in your role, standing tall, stand firm, and having done all, you can still stand because you can do all things through Christ who gives you the strength. Therefore, on behalf of the Honorable Mr. Victor Banks, the transitioning leader, and all the members of the AUF team, we welcome you to this new leadership role. Be assured that we stand proud and tall with you. Just like Deborah has been called to exercise her uncommon leadership and decision-making skills to save her nation in a time of trouble and to become a spokesman for God, telling of his divine revelation and strategy, I pray that you bravely take on the same mantle and walk in the anointing of wisdom and revelation as counselor and problem solver. I declare that you will speak right words and awaken the women and men in powerful places to advocate and endorse God's kingdom and advancement in the earth. Mrs. Richardson Hart, God bless you as you take on this role. Let me also offer words of congratulations to the leader of our youth arm, Ms. Kalnia Hughes. A young woman who has demonstrated excellent leadership skills and potential, whose deliberations are always sound, intelligent, and positive, and who inspires and motivates. Congratulations, Kalnia. Let me also express our thanks to the women who over the years have played a role in advancing the AUF party, but especially to Blondell Rogers, who has been the leader of the women's arm for a number of years. At this juncture, I pause to say thanks to everyone who has placed their trust and confidence in me to be the next leader of the women's arm. I am very much aware that the challenges ahead may be daunting, but as women and a party generally, let us put our faith and trust in the Almighty to see us through these very difficult times. I also implore us all as women to band together for the common good of all. Let me remind you at this juncture of the significant role played by our women in the birth of democracy during the 1967 revolution. the women in the forefront of that cause. And so this afternoon, we pause for a moment to honor their memory and contribution of the first two women who, under the Anna regime, played a significant role in this party and the development of Anguilla. I speak of the Honorable Idalia Gums and Honorable Albina Lake Hodge, on whose shoulders we as women now stand. Indeed, they have left an indelible imprint on the socio-economic and political landscape of this nation. Talk to a man and you get more talk and little action. Talk to a woman and you get it done. It is with this mantra in mind that the women's arm of this party will continue to work on the platform of advancing the cause of women in Anguilla. And I'm therefore asking all women, or as many as possible, to jump on the bandwagon as we work for the common good of all. We cannot do it alone, or just a few of us. We need all of you women. The highlight of this meeting is the leadership transition. As the leadership of this party is being passed on, it is only in order that we as women of this party officially say thanks to one of the best of Anguilla's leaders, the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks. For over 40 years, Mr. Banks has served this nation of Anguilla, and he has done so with excellence. Mr. Banks, this evening we want to say thank you for the wonderful service that you have rendered to the governments and the people of Anguilla over the years. Your strength, your valor, and your equally calm and reassuring disposition are to be admired. There are some who may be ungrateful for the service that you have rendered over the years. But I can assure you this afternoon that many of us are grateful to you for how you have led us through an often toxic environment with good intent and decisiveness in your decision making. I know that your very strong faith in God has seen you through the worst of times. Your skill of good sound and intelligent communication, your personal disposition, and your ability to connect with all and sundry, compounded with your love and compassion for all mankind, are qualities which are to be admired. As you now officially transition to retirement status and take your very long-deserved rest, I can only pray that God grants you long life, good health, peace, strength, and above all, his great salvation. You have served your nation Anguilla with distinction. May God grant you his shalom peace. Congratulations to all, and may God continue to bless Anguilla.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors. But let them know that we're moving up higher. It's higher we going.
Thank you very much, Vanetta. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of the definition of transition, it says in one dictionary, the process or period of changing from one state to another or from one condition to another. So in terms of Mr. Banks's retirement, I have no doubt that the change is a change from the leadership in active politics to the change of being one of the leading consultants and the overall development and political stability of this country. He's been involved in that from throughout his career in politics, and I'm sure he will continue to do that. In terms of change, this is not the change that couldn't wait. This is the change that has been planned and prepared for. We were preparing for this change. The next speaker to the podium is Calnear Hughes, who is the chair of the youth arm. Here is another change, my fellow Anguillians. Young, upcoming, dynamic, beautiful young lady.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors. But let them know that we're moving up higher. It's higher we going.
Good afternoon. I would like to thank the party and the members present at the convention yesterday for having the confidence in me to elect me to serve on the party's executive body as the new chair of the youth arm. I have been actively working within the youth arm at the commands of the Honorable Mr. Joseph Vanterpool. Yes, command. He didn't give me any room to decline. He told me what he wanted and I delivered. As the new chair, I look forward to working with the party as it relates to the youth to help build a stronger party and a stronger Anguilla. On behalf of the AUF party and its many supporters, I would like to express a heartfelt thank you to our outgoing party leader, Mr. Victor Franklin Banks, for his leadership and his selfless contribution to Anguilla for over the past 40+ years. Mr. Banks, we would like to thank you for your hard work, long days, and sleepless nights over the years. Your sacrifices and invaluable contribution to Anguilla have not gone unnoticed. Even your detractors must admit that you have contributed greatly to Anguilla's development over the years. Mr. Banks, you are a giant. You are strong and courageous. You have stood tall against all odds. You have made hard decisions for the development of Anguilla. When many persons had doubts, you knew what you were doing, and you always had a plan. Over the past few months, I've had the opportunity of working closely with Mr. Banks, and boy, can he tease. When I arrived to the first meeting, I thought Mr. Banks had not heard or knew of me. Well, he did, and he made sure that I knew it too. The first day, he addressed me as boss. And from the name, I suspected that he had heard of the work I had been doing within District 5 cell. He told everyone in the room, that's the boss there. And as much as I tried to go unnoticed, he made sure I was noticed. During those months, Mr. Banks willingly shared his wealth of knowledge with the team. Mr. Banks is a pragmatic thinker. He has the ability to assess any situation and make a decision, while considering its advantages and disadvantages. Mr. Banks, you've stood the test of time, and we thank God for giving you some more time with us, as we are sure that there is still much you have to share with us. Anguilla should be proud to have you as a son of the soil. Mr. Banks, we are proud to claim you as a son of the soil. We love you and appreciate you. We consider you one of the greatest of all time. Your leadership has assisted in the molding and shaping of the future executive members of this party for this smooth transition. And for that, we say thank you, thank you, thank you. And to the new party leader, the Honorable Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, I would like to say congratulations on your well-deserved election as leader of the AUF party. We are in unprecedented times
we now have the first female party leader of the Anguilla United Front and of any political party in Anguilla. And you know what we also have? Anguilla's soon-to-be first female premier. Mrs. Richardson Hodge, you have big shoes to fill, but I believe you will do exceptionally well because you are a woman, of course, and not just a woman, but a strong and capable woman. You have shown us what you are made of. We have seen your ability to plan and execute. The things you've endured and overcome would have caused many to crumble, but you were on a mission with the future of Anguilla at heart, and you persevered. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. We love you, and you have our full support. All the best, and may God bless you. Once again, congratulations.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors. But let them know that we're moving up higher.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hughes. And I must also congratulate you for the poise and the confidence that you displayed here on this podium. I can't remember hearing you speak in public before, but I must say that you were very stern and confident in your presentation. Anguilla's future will be in good hands. Fellow Anguillians, again, when you look at transition, that is part of transition. It speaks to growth, modification. We are growing our young people into roles that we intend to fulfill going forward. Transfiguration. You're transforming this party within a structured organization. We move from the very young in the party to one of the seniors. And we are calling now one who is represented District Number 1 from 2010 to 2015, and who is a senior member and will continue to be a senior member and advisor in the Anguilla United Front Party, none other than the Honorable Athlin Vanterpool. Welcome him to the podium.
This one for all the haters.
Good evening, good evening. Make some noise, make some noise. We are, as was said before, we are in transition. And I want to say thanks to the Anguilla United Front family and all of you who took part in the convention yesterday. You showed that there's still a lot of commitment, and you showed that you are prepared to make sure that this party is alive and kicking throughout the full 5-year term. I want to say to our loyal supporters, thank you all very much. I know that you have enjoyed quite a bit, but I'm asking that you stay strong, stay firm, stay firm. The time is going to come, and I'm sure that it will not be too far away. 5 years is not a long time, when we will have a chance once again to go around the stake. And I know that our supporters will do exactly what they need to do. Any mistakes that were made before will be corrected this time around. I want to use this opportunity to say thanks to an outstanding leader, one who has served Anguilla well over the past 40 plus years. And I'm speaking about the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks. Mr. Banks is a man who got battered, bruised, and taken to task from all quarters of Anguilla. But despite all of the talk and the ridicule, he stood firm. He stood up like a gentleman. I was listening to a young man on the radio not too long ago on a talk show, and he was lamenting the fact that he has been abused by our premier. He said that he was one who ridiculed Mr. Banks. But he said one thing Mr. Banks did not do. Mr. Banks did not retaliate. And he said, despite the fact that he does not support him, Mr. Banks acted like a statesman. That's who he is, a statesman. Like everyone else, I too have been around Mr. Banks for a while, and I've seen him in action. I remember when myself and Evans McNeil Rogers were in government, even though we were the ones in the House of Assembly, the powerhouse behind us was Mr. Banks and the rest of the AUF team. The Honorable Hubert Hughes mentioned at one of the meetings of the House of Assembly that the Anguilla United Front is a well-oiled machine, and behind the two representatives here, the individuals are working, and Mr. Banks kept us in the know and made sure that our representation was one of the highest quality. I want to also remember our trip to London when we had to meet with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. I sat and I listened and participated, but I recognized that Mr. Banks is not an ordinary man, he's a giant of a man. And I know that in politics, active politics, we will miss him. But as was said earlier, he is going nowhere. He will still be around to make sure that we have that good advice. Mr. Banks, on behalf of the people of Anguilla, I want to say to you, thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you for standing up when all the others were crumbling. Thank you for not giving up when you were battered and bruised. And thank you for leading Anguilla into where it is today. As we move forward, and Evan spoke about transition, we will be transitioning into a new era, and we'll be having a new leader. And as was said a few minutes ago, it's the first time in the history of the Anguilla United Front and in the history of Anguilla when we will have a woman heading a major party in Anguilla. I am looking forward in the not too distant future when we can stand on these podiums and say that we have in Cora Richardson Hodge, Anguilla's first female premier. And I'm looking forward to that date. I know that Cora is not one that will crumble. She's a giant of a lady, and the choice, I think, is a very good one. She is doing a very good job in the House of Assembly and keeping the government on its toes. I want to say to you, Honorable Cora, that you have a job to do. Continue to hold government accountable. You will have our support. You will have my support. And I will do everything that I could to make sure that you are able to move forward and reach to the top, not only of this party, but to the top of politics right here in Anguilla. I know that In the House of Assembly, there are those who are getting touchy. They are talking about the banking resolution, and I know you spoke a little some day ago. And I know that there are some folks who don't want you to say anything. But I'm saying to you, these are some of the issues that you have to champion. Yes, there was a resolution, but you have to continue to make sure that you hold the feet of those persons to the fire and make them accountable for things that they might have done. To the rest of us, the people of Anguilla, I'm asking you to support your government. Support the government that we have in office now. It is our government, and I'm asking you to support them. They need all the help that you can give. If you cannot give anything positive other, pray for them. We need to pray for our government. And I want to, before I leave here, I want to say one more time to all of us, let us buckle up our shoes, roll up our sleeves, and do whatever we can to make sure that the Anguilla United Front is a party that is strong, a party that will get stronger, and a party that will lead us into the future under the leadership of Cora Richardson Hodge. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and continue to work with our young people and those who are elected, because the future is bright and the Anguilla United Front will be at the forefront of that future. Thank you very much.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors.
Thank you very much, Athlin. Let me take this opportunity to apologize for not having Brother Mark Rumney here with us. He's actually overseas, and Sister Everly Bradley is on a different assignment at this point in time. We're hoping that she'll be able to join us a little later, but if not, our apologies for her absence. Athlin mentioned that we should pray for our government. We should support them, because indeed they are our government. And while some of you may dispute that, at the end of the day, they were duly elected, and they are the government of Anguilla, of our beautiful Anguilla. Whether we like it or not, they are the government of Anguilla. And indeed, we must support and pray for them, and help and assist them where necessary. But just to mention that it is very difficult to help individuals who are in a situation who do not want your help. I will go into a little more about that when I make my presentation shortly. But for the time being, I would like to call another youngster to the podium for his presentation and remarks. Lockhart Hughes, a young man who had a taste of what it was like to be involved in politics, to run as a candidate with the Anguilla United Front. He has gone down in the annals of Anguilla as one of the first candidates who ran island-wide under the Anguilla United Front banner in 2020. Lockhart Hughes to the podium. Please welcome him to the podium.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Good evening, AUF family. So good to see the yellow and gold back out again. And for me, it says that we are all here and we are all able and willing for this transition to happen. But before I go further into that, I would like to give credit to the outgoing leader, Mr. Victor Franklin Banks, by thanking him for assisting in shaping my thinking, which ultimately led me to giving myself up for public service. Your life's work has significantly contributed to a better Angola for all. And I'm quite sure that a large number of persons can say the same thing. You know, depending on who you ask about Mr. Victor Franklin Banks and his political history, the stories can be amusing and confusing. I've heard a few call him an elitist, and when I hear such sentiments, I became confused. My history with you, Chief, tells a totally different story. I do remember Cap Juluka hosting a meeting for the Monetary Council. I believe it was in 15, where you were the chairman at the time and was checked into the most expensive and luxurious suite in the entire property. And when this was pointed out to you, you merely exclaimed that all you needed was a bed and a toilet. Does this sound like an elitist to you? For me, you have been the epitome of a humble servant of the people, a true example of putting country above self. So much so that you would not even defend yourself when attacked, and believe that it just came with the office. I can recall our domino games during the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, where we would have to tap you on your shoulder to remind you that it was your turn to play. You were so entrenched in rebuilding and recovering our nation that you couldn't even spare an hour to fully enjoy the game that you so love. And I personally want to thank you for those golden years of economic growth between 2000 and 2010. Over $1 billion of foreign direct investment that you oversaw. However, you have turned a new leaf in your book of life. And now a new legacy for the AUF is about to be built. This is a spectacular day, and it will be noted in the history books of the AUF as we transition to the first female party leader of the Angola United Front. And I want to say to the Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge, you have my full support in moving us forward as a party and a nation. And it can be seen in recent meetings in the House of Assembly, the way you have conducted yourself and led the opposition signifies that you are the right choice. You have shown what true leadership is, while tearing gaping holes in the belief that the now Premier of Angola is fit to lead this country. It makes me wonder how a woman with no cojones has more cojones than our Premier. And I vividly remembered the Honorable Evans McNeil Rogers warning us of the turmoil and confusion that will follow in government if government was to change. And sad to say that he was absolutely correct. Our country suffers as the ones at the helm is treating her affairs like a game of tic-tac-toe. So this undoubtedly makes the rescue job of the next government even more difficult. But we have a party and leaders with the ability to fix it. And with that in mind, I implore you to rally around the AUF, and a hearty congratulations to our new leader, the Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge. And for us, Angola for us, onward, united. Thank you.
This one for all the haters.
Thank you very much, Lockhart. There's no harm, there's no violence in repetition. You would have heard it throughout the presentations here this evening that the new party leader is none other than the Honorable Cora May Richardson Hodge. That was decided at our convention yesterday afternoon. The chair of the women's arm, Vanetta Richardson. The chair of the youth arm, Kalnia Hughes, who you would have heard from. The Honorable Jose Vanterpool is the General Secretary. The Honorable Cardigan Connor is the Deputy Party Leader. Sheila Richardson Hodge is the Secretary Treasurer. And there are a number of other positions that are to be filled as the new transition team and the executive team sit down to address and fill those positions. You've heard quite a bit about the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks and his stellar leadership and what a remarkable job that he's done over his political career here in Anguilla. But I would want to say to you that transition of leadership and retirement from active politics does not mean retiring from his continued contribution to the overall development of Anguilla and its people. There is no other political party that will be around in my lifetime that will have the sort of reference, experience, reference that the Anguilla United Front will have in Victor Franklin Banks over his 4 decades in active politics. A giant here not only here at home, but throughout the region and internationally. As an Anguillan, and you're close to the political wheels of governments all over the Caribbean, and you mention Anguilla, and you mention Victor Banks, you will hear the type of commendations and accolades that the leaders of the region would bestow on Victor Franklin Banks. But we'll talk a little bit more about that when I have my turn here to make my presentation. And I'll continue now with my role in terms of the chairperson and to call on another member of the team who would have contested the last general election as the representative, the candidate for District Number 1 in Island Harbor, Aris Smith, one who very capable, one who's been there for the people, one who continues to be there for the people, and a very, very prominent member of this Anguilla United Front team. Aris Smith, let's welcome him to the podium.
This one for all the haters, all the detractors. But let them know that we're moving up.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. This evening, I feel very appreciative. I am grateful for the opportunity that was given to me by the Anguilla United Front. And I am regularly encouraged by many to continue working for the people, and I intend to do so. We are here to witness the transition of leadership from Mr. Victor Franklin Banks to Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, and I support this decision 100%. Mr. Banks, you should be proud. You have navigated Anguilla through some of the most difficult decisions ever to be made by an Anguillan government. We are certainly proud of you, Mr. Banks. You have been a firm but fair and consistent leader. For the record, You have been a firm and fair and consistent leader. In your 40 years plus in this political arena, you were able to serve in many difficult and different capacities, and your wealth of knowledge and experiences can never be replaced, and certainly will look to you. I will look to you for advice to move this team in the right direction as a candidate. Today, as you pass on the reins to Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge, I just want to say thank you for everything you have done for this great nation, and do enjoy your retirement. Let's all give him a round of applause, please. And Mr. Banks, my team and District 1, we do appreciate you. And I have here from Quintessence Restaurant a gift voucher for dinner for 2. So can you please come and collect it? Please. There's lots of wine, and you know, you can enjoy yourself.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. This is our premier, our chief, and he has served us well. Mrs. Cora Richardson Hodge wears many hats. She is a wife, mother, lawyer, and a politician. She has certainly proven to us that she is capable of doing it all. Her record cannot be disputed. She passed our Labor Relations Act. She looked out for the unemployed by creating a registry for them. She founded the Hope Community Center. She amended the Anguilla Constitution to allow grandchildren to be recognized as Anguillians. That's the type of leadership we are looking at as a woman. She passed the new Elections Act, which allows for island-wide candidate voting throughout our country. She designed founding proposals and construction of the new Albina Lake Hodge Comprehensive School campus, as well as the Eastern Tennis Court facility. And most recently, she has been a giant in the House of Assembly, stating her points as she sits as the leader of opposition for the Anguilla United Front team. I can go on and on about all the great work that she has done, but time is limited. I fully support her, and I look forward to working with her and all the members of this team to develop this country, Anguilla, to the country we all want. Thank you, and God bless Anguilla.
Thank you very much, Aris. You touched on a number of initiatives that the Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge would have been involved in. You did mention the constitutional changes, the amendments that were made to the Constitution. And I would also like to say to those Anguillians who are listening to us and are looking at us via the various media methods overseas, that you too, having dual citizenship, because I know a number of you, whether in the United States or Canada, you're all welcome to come back home, and you don't have to renounce your U.S. citizenship thanks to the amendment and the leadership of Cora with respect to the Constitution, that you can always come back home. And again, all-inclusive, the work of Cora Richardson Hodge. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about transition, as I mentioned before, we talk about growth, modification, and there is no doubt that the next speaker would have had an initiation in politics and would have been prepared and preparing himself for such a role. I would like to mention, and I'm sure that Mr. Banks and others would have quite a bit to say about this, who were on the team in the UK. I believe it was in 2017, when the Honorable Jose Vanterpool, who was a student in the UK at that particular point in time, led the Anguilla delegation with the topic computer science and all of the modern day gadgets, I should say. A student at that particular point in time, but here he was with Mr. Banks and his team negotiating with the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. Now, when you look at the present administration, and I like to compare and contrast, who in the present administration would have had such an initiation prior to them getting involved in politics or prior to them being elected in the House of Assembly? This is what I refer to as prior preparation that will prevent poor performance. I have no doubt that the Honorable Jose Vanterpool is one of our future leaders of this country. He is sound, he is knowledgeable, he is not afraid. As the youngest parliamentarian and the youngest deputy speaker of the House, he was not afraid to put up his hand and to represent you, the people of Anguilla. Our young people, our country, there's a bright future ahead of us. But you, the electorate, must be cognizant of the fact and must look at the options that you would have when you go to the polls whenever elections are called. This team is a team that has been grounded. This team is a team that has been built on a solid foundation. This team is a team that has the resources, the human capacity resources and experience behind it in order to move Anguilla forward. Ladies and gentlemen, one of our young rising stars, not only in politics, but in the world of computer science and the technology of today, the Honorable Jose Vanterpool.
Good evening, Anguilla. It feels good to be back out again, surrounded by good people, looking so beautiful in their golden colors. I want to say thank you to you all, our AUF family, our supporters, those who've just come out to witness the transition, and those following us online. Those who have joined us yesterday for a wonderful convention that would have led to new members officially being added to this, our AUF team, as we move from one era to the next. I'd like to begin by congratulating all of the members of the newly formed executive, especially the chair of the youth arm, Ms. Calnia Hughes. Now, I'm not sure what she was trying to say earlier about me commanding anybody to do anything, because as Mr. Banks has rightfully said, Calnia is the boss. In fact, I'm very happy to have her officially joining us in this capacity formally, because what many people would not have known is that the people behind the scenes are the ones that actually keeps the machinery moving. And Calnia is one of those superstars who behind the scene, regardless of what it is, no matter how short notice, that I could call upon, and she might cost me a little bit here, but it was also, okay, Jose, when do you need it by, and what do you need done? She never hesitated to volunteer herself to perform, and she always performed with excellence. So I'd love to welcome her in her new capacity, as I'm sure she's going to play a vital role in moving our organization from strength to strength, especially where the youth is concerned. Today we're here, as I said earlier, to witness the transition. As I look to my right, you think of the phrase, we're all dwarfs standing on the shoulders of giants. Now, although I know Mr. Banks wasn't the one who originally coined this term, I've heard it so much come from him that even when I think of it in my head, it's said with his voice. And it's interesting, because now I'm looking over and I'm seeing the past Honorable Mr. Kenneth Harrigan, a past Minister of Infrastructure, a key role in our AUF organization, a past giant. And next to him, the person who likes to use that phrase so much, we're all dwarfs standing on the shoulders of giants, is today the giant who we're here to celebrate. A giant who I'm proud to be a dwarf standing on the shoulders on. Mr. Banks, he has a special place in my heart. We've had a very good relationship over the years, far before I even thought about politics. What always stood out to me about Mr. Banks is that despite being the leader of government business, he always took it upon himself to keep in touch with the students that were out there, to follow up on our progress, especially for myself, and no matter what it was, all of my toughest times, I can always say that I've had his full support. The other day I showed Mr. Banks an award that he didn't even remember giving to me. It was done at my high school graduation. But though it might have slipped his memory in recent times, that award, which it was inscribed, the Victor Banks Award of Excellence, for sitting the most subjects in Anguilla's history. Just that award, he didn't know that was the most special award I received that night. It is an award that was the closest to my heart, and it's one that I continuously use to fuel me to always strive for excellence. Throughout my university years, Mr. Banks would always take time to reach out, even if it's just to say hello, just to see how I was doing, or to offer some encouraging words. I mean, as a university student, when you see your phone ringing, and even though you have a good relationship with him, your heart always started to beat a little fast, like, oh my God, the premier is calling me. What is this about? But it was always just to check in, just to say hi. We'd have casual exchanges and conversations. I would talk about my experiences, ideas that I had for Anguilla, and he would enlighten me, push me in certain directions, but he was always preparing me for what's to come. Neil spoke, the honorable grandfather of the house, let me step back into my place here, the honorable grandfather of the house, Mr. Evans McNeil Rogers, he would have spoke about the time where I had the privilege of joining Mr. Banks, along with his team, to London for the Joint Ministerial Council, as well as to attend the bilateral negotiations with them and the UK government. Now, this was my first exposure ever to politics. It was my first time ever being exposed to diplomatic relations on that level. And it's amazing seeing how these negotiations take place, especially when the cameras and the general local politics are taken out of it. I was left awed. But not only was I there to witness the experience, I was amazed at the relationship that Mr. Banks had, not only with the officials in the UK government, but with all of the prime ministers and leaders of our overseas territories. It was beyond just being ministers coming together to do business with the British. You could see that when Mr. Banks stepped into the room, he was known. He commanded attention. And in the relations that took place after, in the informal periods, he was a friend of these persons. Mr. Banks has always been a role model to me, but he has grown into becoming a mentor. Coming back to Anguilla and making the decision to get involved in politics, I would remember, he said, "You're sure?" I said, "Yeah, Mr. Banks, I think I want to run for politics." He said, "Son, take a while and think about it."
I said, "Why do you think, Mr. Banks? You don't think I should do it?" He said, "No. I don't." He said, "No, I don't want to confuse you. I don't ever get the impression that I want to discourage you from running for politics. But just know that as a young man, I wouldn't encourage you to do it either." So I took some time. I thought about it. I came back to Mr. Banks and I was like, "Mr. Banks, my mind is made up. I'm definitely going to run if the party will allow me to." He said, "Well, son, if your mind is made up, I'm very happy to hear it. As I said, I didn't want to discourage you, but I didn't want to encourage you either. I wanted the decision to be of your own." Now, throughout the entire campaign period and running, I always thought to myself, I look forward to the contribution that I would make, not only in Parliament, but as a part of this team, this organization, led by Mr. Banks. So, thinking about going through the election and winning and being in the House of Assembly, but being there without Mr. Banks, to be honest, that was one of my worst nightmares. Not because I feel like I wouldn't be able to hold my own, but because I felt, honestly then, that there was no person better suited to run the country who stood for elections than the man to my right. Well, the elections took place, and though some may call it unfortunate that Mr. Banks didn't win, well, it's unfortunate for Anguilla, but in some senses, I am very happy to see that he didn't win. I mean, anyone who takes a look at Mr. Banks today would have to ask themselves who this young man is walking around. It is clear that he needed some time to not focus on the hassles of running a country as he has been for the past over 40 years. The man now deserves some time to himself. And Mr. Banks, I want you to enjoy every moment of it. Well, over the past few months, in the absence of Mr. Banks as that leader figure, especially in the House of Assembly, I've had the pleasure of working with someone who I am confident will also be soon known as a giant, not only in politics in Anguilla, but in the entire Caribbean region. The honorable leader of the opposition and now leader of the Anguilla United Front political party, the Honorable Miss Cora Richardson Hodge. Let me tell you, I am so happy to know that I am going to be a part of the team that brings forth the first female premier of Anguilla. Because watch out for it, it's coming. Those fears that I had leading up to elections, that there was no one else who was standing for elections, who could fully and effectively take the reins and lead our country in that direction, have all been alleviated. I've had the pleasure of working closely with Mrs. Richardson Hodge over the past few months as members of the parliamentary opposition, and she's ready to lead not 5 years from now, but if you give her the reins today, wow, maybe that's exactly what we need to do. But we will use this time that we now have, the 4 years ahead of us, to work together as a party to rebuild the Anguilla United Front. As Mr. Rogers said earlier, we don't need to change the logo, we don't need to change the name, we don't need to change the color. But we are going to work on strengthening our party from the ground up. We are going to rebuild and refocus and come back better and stronger than ever, ready to lead Anguilla to where it needs to be. I am confident in Cora's leadership because when I think about working with her, you just have to admire it. She's a critical thinker, a logical thinker, one who takes time when persons are ready to rush into decisions to say, wait a moment, have you considered this? I know it may be frustrating to some of the persons working with her because they were like, man, Cora, we just need to hurry and get things done. But she's not ever going to be that leader who's going to make an impulse decision without thinking through every single option and implication fully. And that is what I think that we need here in Anguilla. I am confident that with the support of our political leaders, especially Mr. Banks, remember he's stepping aside, but he ain't stepping back, because Mr. Banks, we ain't gonna let you go nowhere. We ain't gonna harass you too much, but we still need you. with all of the support as us as elected members, and Cora, let me say thank you to you, because without you and the changes that you brought to Anguilla for the betterment of our country, I wouldn't be able to stand here today as an island-wide member. That was a change that you brought about. As well as the entire executive of the party, we are going to work together with our cell groups, with our supporters, with our family, pull our collective minds together to find the effective way to lead this country forward. And with Cora at the mantle, there's no doubt that we will get the job done and get it done well. I just want to say thank you to all of you for coming out and supporting us as a team, but for everyone who has supported Mr. Banks over the past 40 years and who has supported Cora to this point. We want to say thank you, because we would not be here today and Anguilla would not be in the position it's in today without every one of you working together to move this country forward. So thank you, may God bless you all, and may God continue to bless both Anguilla and the Anguilla United Front.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Josie Vanterpool. I did mention that the Honorable Cardigan Connor, who is now the deputy leader of the party, and I will now tell you about two other positions. The chairman of the Anguilla United Front Party is none other than Mr. Fitzgerald Smith, and the vice chair of the party is none other than Victor Franklin Banks. So he ain't got nowhere. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure that I introduce to the podium my friend, a long-time friend, one again who has served his community admirably, a true professional, international and otherwise. Cardigan is no stranger to the international scene. And again, under the tutelage of Mr. Banks, we would have all had the opportunity to experience what it is in terms of representing Anguilla outside of our shores. Whether it's at the Joint Ministerial Conference, other conferences in the UK, that exposure, that experience is absolutely necessary if we are to represent our people in a meaningful manner. And that is, my fellow Anguillians, is what this party has as its core. So Cardi, being a newcomer in 2015 to the political scene and being elected, has been exposed to what it takes to represent Anguilla. You can compare that and contrast it with the team that we have presently in office. I've been saying this on the political rostrum all the time, but these are the facts, my fellow Anguillians. And in a little while, you will hear from our leaders, and I will make my contribution towards that after Cardi speaks. So welcome Cardi to the podium. Cardigan.
Thank you, Neil.
This one for all the haters.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here. When I looked at the lineup, it reminded me of my days at Hampshire when I was batting at 9, 10, or 11. Today or tonight, it is a case of how do you sound original when you're following so many other speakers that pretty much says all the things that you want to say. But I need to say them. I need to say them. I will start with my district, District 7. I could see Chesney and Benji's here, and there are a few others around. I think the biggest bodybuilder in Anguilla would probably regard as my bodyguard. He's around here as well. Desmond is here. But I want to say a special thank you to the people of District 7. Not so long ago, the people in District 7 would not thought it was possible, if they were listening to others on the political rostrum, that you would have the deputy leader coming out of District 7. I am very proud to be that person. And I often talk about team because that's what I'm about. I've learned so much about wherever you go in the world that you always have to be part of a team. And the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks reminds me of the greatest captain the West Indies ever had, Clive Lloyd. Clive Lloyd was the elder statesman, and he was the one that built a team that long after he'd passed on would be very successful. With Victor Franklin Banks, what I will say, the greatest endorsement that he could have ever had from District 7 came in 2014-15 at the first meeting we had in West End when the late Honorable Albert Belter Hughes got to the podium. On that night, despite the fact of speakers that we had, the Honorable Albert Belter Hughes blew it away. He was the one that sat in opposition to Victor Banks for a number of years. He was the one at the end of his career actually gave him some credence, because the Honorable Albert Belter Hughes, who was my mentor, he was the one that his family today, those in St. Thomas, in fact his wife's sister, I'm sure, she's listening along with Rhonda, Keith, and Vanette, and Sherry, who's here in Anguilla, would say that at least when he went to rest, he was at peace. Because when you give so much of your time to the people, give all to your people, and especially to a party, in his case, the party that he was with let him down. But he was fortunate enough to have joined with the Anguilla United Front in his last term. And I think with that, I will personally say to Victor, to Bunton, and in fact, Kenneth as well, all those who embraced the Honorable Albert Belter Hughes in the Anguilla United Front, I thank you so much indeed for that. I owe a lot to the people in District 7. My formative years, my aunt, who was the first mother I knew, sister was like a surrogate mother. To my wife Jackie, who I brought all the way from Australia. My cell group, as I mentioned. The community of West End. I believe that the decision that was made yesterday, I'm not preempting anything, because one thing I learned in politics, that when I assumed, and I will say assumed, that we did enough, not talking in the last general election, but the work that we did from 2015 to 2020, that our people would have appreciated it. They didn't. They didn't, unfortunately. But you know what? We all could look back on what we could have done, but we have to move on, and that's what we intend to do. Victor Franklin Banks, to me, not just over the last 5 years, but in the times that I've known him, he's been very much part of our mentorship. We never really talked about my involvement or getting involved in politics until back in 2011, soon after the 2010, where Keswick Richardson, the person that I endorsed in West End, failed for the 5th time, and a number of people suggested, Card, it's time to stand up. And again, the likes of Chesney, McDonough, Benji, who will always be one of my best friends ever. These are the guys that, again, supported me. When I talk about team, I mean it, because I've often said it and I'll say it again. When District 7 came in and the results came in, I'm grateful to the people who voted me in, but I still felt as if I'd lost, because you could win, but if your team loses, then it's a case of the whole objective has been lost. But today, I'm proud to say that the people who've supported me are still there for me. There are others out there I will go and look to bring more on board. So to the people of District 7, again, I would say thank you so much for allowing me to represent you not just once, but a 2nd time in the House of Assembly. Cora Richardson Hodge, she's someone that was groomed for this position. Whether she liked it or not, she was. Because in 2015, When we got into office and had to deal with the banking crisis straight away, Cora stepped up. Of course, our premier, in fact, was a chief minister at the time. It was his responsibility, ultimate responsibility, to see it through. But what I will tell you is that with the support and help and knowledge of Cora and the hard work, helped to make that happen. So when you can go out and achieve something like that, it tells you that you're not afraid of a challenge. Cora Richardson Hodge, again, she dealt with the labor code. That is something for a number of years many politicians would have talked about, but none did anything about it. Again, I think that the people of Anguilla, the majority of the people of Anguilla, especially in the hotel industry, should acknowledge the fact what she did in order to protect their jobs, to give them better conditions. But still, in the end, were they ungrateful? You tell me whether or not they're ungrateful. And this current government, of course, they would have criticized on the podium. When they first got into office, they would have made a lot of comments. We will wait and see whether they're going to touch, amend, or do anything regarding the labor code. Regarding the schools and the fact and the ability to be able to get £60 million from the British to help restore a broken infrastructure after Hurricane Irma, could you imagine that even in the House of Assembly, that persons would get up and call it a pity payment? £60 million that the British taxpayers would have paid into the Angolan coffers, and we could refer to it as pity payment. Are we ungrateful or not? That's what I ask of you. And also, what I will tell you, some of the things that a number of you may not have seen of Cora Richardson Hodge is in an executive council. Anything that passes from a premier to the chairperson, which would be the governor or the AG, Cora would always have an eye on exactly what is being documented. So my fellow Anguillians, my family members at the Anguilla United Front, what you have got in Cora Richardson Hodge is someone that is well equipped. If I refer to the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks as Clive Lloyd, so Hubert Clive Lloyd, then Cora is the greatest cricketer ever the world has made, so Vivian Richards. Anybody who understands cricket knows that when Viv Richards took over from Clive Lloyd, West Indies went for 17 years unbeaten. 17 years unbeaten. Again, my time is up. Again, I want to say thank you to all who've turned out, to the family, the AUF family from East End or from Island Harbour to West End. I thank you for your constant support that you've given us over the years. And as we look forward, we know that this is the right government. When I say the right, not the current government, but the Anguilla United Front is the right team to lead Anguilla forward. Thank you, good night, and may God continue to bless you all.
Thank you very much, Kadi. And thanks to all the previous speakers. It is my time to say my piece to this transition meeting. But before I get into that, my fellow Anguillians, as usual, I have to compare and contrast. This Anguilla United Front came together. It was built on the premise of bringing political stability. It was formed on the premise of bringing political stability and economic prosperity to Anguilla. Two rival parties at the time, the Anguilla Democratic Party, led by the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks, and the Anguilla National Alliance, led by the Honorable Osborne Fleming, came together and had a principled agreement. things were laid out and documented. But when I look at those two political parties that came together, rival political parties that came together, put aside their political differences for the overall benefit and the good of the people of this country, it was and is still admirable today. That formation was done on a basis not only of the active politicians at the time being involved, but key members of each political party took part in the formation. That foundation was laid because in order to move Anguilla forward and to stabilize the political environment of Anguilla at the time, it was absolutely necessary. Again, I like to speak about experience because experience is the greatest teacher or the greatest teaching of mankind. And the reason why I said all of that is because I am comparing that with the present administration. And I want the people of Anguilla to really listen and to go and investigate or to do some research in terms of what we have in office now. That is the reason why I am pleased to be a part of and will continue to be a part of for the rest of my life to be a member of the Anguilla United Front. Because it was built on a solid foundation, a principled foundation, and an experienced foundation. That is why this transition isn't anything, and the word transition and this entire process, there is no need to fear it, because a foundation has been laid that we must be able to build upon. And when you compare what we have in office today as our government, let's compare and contrast. This Anguilla United Front is not a AUM turn APM or a blue or green turn another color. Our deputy party leader just spoke. I am wondering which of you or who in Anguilla today can name the deputy leader of the APM. And we went through an entire political campaign. Nothing to fear. This is what we are all about. Structured, principled, and experienced leadership and a foundation. Yes, it's nice to thank Mr. Banks for all that he has done for Anguilla nationally, for the last 40 years internationally and regionally. But I'm not here to thank Mr. Banks because Mr. Banks ain't going no place. The transition is from active politics to consultative politics, because no one in Anguilla has the capacity and the experience that Mr. Banks has. None, but none of them. As a result of that, you see what we have today. Let me give you an experience. Since I got in government, was elected in 2005 and been in government, I was the rookie and was proud to be the rookie in 2005, 2010. These newcomers don't like the name rookie. Don't like it. I was proud to be the rookie because I had an opportunity to learn from experienced people. Can you look at the present administration and see who or what group can they use as references for the difficulties that this country is facing today? No wonder they're putting up in each other and running into each other, running all over each other, talking about all sorts of things and blaming all sorts of folks, including Mr. Banks, for the present situation. Compare and contrast. In a Cora administration, AUF administration, And there will be difficulties, and there will be challenges in any administration. There is always a reference point that she can rely on, and an experienced one on that. So my prayer is not to thank Mr. Banks for the work that he has done. My prayer is to ask God to give him the wisdom, the knowledge, and longevity to help this country in years to come. That's what it is, because he ain't going any place. We're not going any place. And when you talk about stability, because the United Front, one of the pillars was to ensure political stability being restored to Anguilla. And my God, if you listen to the talk shows and the voice notes, you would believe that it's the Anguilla United Front and the opposition that is opposing what government is doing. It is their own folks. Less than a year. They are the ones. That is a result of the inexperience that I spoke about. That is as a result of those folks getting up here on these political rostrum during the campaign season and promising all sorts of nonsense, what they're going to do, what they're not going to do, what they're going to turn over. And when they get in office, they follow suit and walk straight up the line. And as a result of that, there is a formula. Inexperience plus immaturity for a group of first-timers or rookie will manifest itself into incompetence. And that is what we're seeing in this government. That is what it is in this government. We have a classic example before us. You never hear so much about the GST. You never hear so much about the banking. You never hear so much about all sorts of things. And what the heck are they doing? What are they doing? Ask their supporters. Because those of us who were involved in government under the leadership of Mr. Banks knew exactly where we want to take this country. Knew exactly where we want to take this country. And I make no bones about it. There are difficult times worldwide, but you must be able, as a government, to be able to have some sort of plan and a fallback plan. But my brothers, this administration, as far as you and I can see, is nothing but chaos and confusion. So I want you all to look very carefully at what is happening. I want to take this opportunity to thank Cora for stepping up to the plate and accepting the responsibility to lead this party and to lead this country going forward. As was mentioned before, the first female political leader of a political party, and soon to be the first female premier of Anguilla. We're here. And I want to thank Mr. Banks, not for what he has done for Anguilla, as I mentioned before, and representing its people. I want to thank Mr. Banks for preparing his team for leadership to move the country forward. That is the thank you that I have for Mr. Banks. We'll have other times to thank him for what he's done, because you can't list them out chronologically, too much over the years. But I want to thank him for the preparation and the investment that he did in preparing all of us, including yours truly, for leadership at any point in time. Cora has been to the UK and to the joint ministerial meetings on several occasions while she was a rookie in a government. And she's not afraid of the term rookie. Not afraid. Mr. Banks, as leader of the government and Minister of Finance, I, as a senior minister in the government, and Cora, as the rookie, traveled to England so that she can be exposed, so that she can be prepared for the negotiations and discussions. You heard Jose spoke about his experience as a student up there, sitting with Mr. Banks in those joint ministerial meetings, so he is prepared. And all of his ministers and all of his elected representatives in Mr. Banks' government had that opportunity. And that is what I spoke about earlier on, prior preparation, which prevents poor performance. So it's not like what we have in government today. It's not that way. Name one of those folks who had ever attended a JMC meeting. Name one. So how we expect them to perform in these difficult times? They don't have the exposure, they don't have the experience. And this is no time to be learning on the job. So whenever the next election comes around, I want you, the people of Anguilla, to take what I am saying very seriously. I said it on the political rostrum. I talk about mix and matching and all sorts of stuff. I talk about experienced leadership. I talk about a team. But at the end of the day, it's democracy. You would have gone out and you would have chose an administration. The administration is there in place, and they must be judged on their performance. Must be judged. And looking at the way things are right now, their own supporters have been hoodwinked into believing the platform rhetoric that they put out there. These are sobering times in this country, and we in the Anguilla United Front, we are not afraid. We are not afraid of transitioning, because, as I mentioned, this political organization is based on principle, experience, and a well-oiled machine. We are not going anywhere. Not going anywhere. And Mr. Banks, as I said, I'm praying that God will give you the strength to continue with us for a number of years, a lot more years, because we know the value that you have brought not only to the government and people of Anguilla, but to this region. So this is not a thank you for Mr. Banks. It's a transition from one position into another. And for Cora, we know you have been prepared, as all of us have been. You have a team. You have, you know, in the libraries they used to have a reference section, where if they had one book, they keep it in the reference section. You didn't have to borrow. You had to go to the library and use the reference section if you're doing your research. These days, with the internet and Google and stuff like that, that's not applicable. But in this instance, the references that the Anguilla United Front has, and that Cora and the entire AUF team has, there is none, no other party, whether it's the existing party or a new party, would have like the Anguilla United Front. I have no doubt, I have no fear whatsoever that moving this country forward in the direction that all Anguillians, or most Anguillians, would benefit from. Because you can't please all the people. Some are going to have ups and downs and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, this country, as small as it is bigger than all of us. And that this transitioning of leadership from Mr. Banks to Cora is a good one, it is a timely one, and it is in the best interest of the people of Anguilla, socially, economically, and politically. So I welcome it with all my energy and enthusiasm. Have been, will be a part of this organization until the breath leaves my body. So I'm not going anywhere, and Mr. Banks ain't going nowhere. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome the giant, one of the founding members of the Anguilla United Front, my mentor, the people's champion, no one else but the Honorable Victor Franklin Banks.
And if you try to fix more than you break.
Good evening. And we're all happy to be here this evening for this transition meeting of the Anguilla United Front. The last time I stood on these platforms, I was in excruciating pain. And we were celebrating the success of our Anguilla United Front candidates and thanking our supporters in District Number 2, particularly for returning their representative, the Honorable Cora May Richardson Hodge, to the Anguilla House of Assembly. But God had a plan for me that he saw through. And I'm here tonight, no crutches, no cane, no pain, no limps. Grateful for God's mercies and prepared to move on to another phase in my representation of the people of Anguilla. I am blessed and can look back on the past 40 years of active politics with pride, because I believe with all humility that through my service I have helped to make Anguilla an improved place in terms of many aspects of our development. I will not want to waste an enjoyable evening by boasting of our achievements at the Anguilla United Front government over the past years. But I will say that it is because of our efforts that we are today enjoying a safer Anguilla, even in the midst of this global pandemic. I want to thank all those colleagues who have spoken before me and had nice things to say about me. While it is not necessary, it is well appreciated. I'm indeed humbled that you would take the time to find such nice things to say. It will help to balance out the much less favorable things others have said about me. Persons who have never met me or never engaged with me, yet they know so much about me that they can say negative things about me. You have balanced that out. I also want to thank my colleagues for being good team players. And the Anguilla United Front team of 2015 in government, the Honorable Neil Evans McNeil Rogers, the Honorable Everly Bradley, the Honorable Curtis Richardson, the Honorable Cardigan Connor, and the Honorable Cora May Richardson, as well as all those persons within the administration who've acted as special assistants, support from Atlin Vanterpool, Mark Romney, a number of other special advisors who have worked with us. We could not have been successful without the support of all team players in all the major issues we undertook. The banking resolution, the Captuluca reorganization, the Hurricane Irma recovery, and in the end, the COVID response plan. In a little over 2 months, we would have been out of office for 1 year. But we have been true to our promise to give this government the opportunity to do its work. You will be the judge as to whether or not you are satisfied with their efforts. But we are here today as a party to transition from one leadership team to another. It is not about change for change's sake. It is about change because our party is ready for change. That readiness came as a result of being satisfied that over the years we have groomed capable leadership. And now that leadership, the past leadership, are deserving of retirement, we are confident that we have suitable leaders to take over the vision and mission and move forward. I was so proud to hear Kalnia Hughes up here today in her presentation. As a young lady who has never been exposed to these platforms, they even had to put a block for her to stand on. She's so sharp. But don't be fooled by the caliber of people that we have been able to groom within our organization for the future. And we look forward to young leaders like Kalnia moving forward. I wish that more persons would have been at the convention yesterday just to be able to get the benefit of a presentation on the history of the Angular United Front and the foundation principles upon which our party was built. And I feel moved to ask the person who made that presentation to make a public presentation of that history so that we can get a better feel for what the Angular United Front is all about. Even for me, as a founding member, it was inspiring because it provided an opportunity for reflection as well as a clearer vision of what our party needs to do now to steady the course. The Angular United Front has absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. And we have plenty to be extremely proud about in terms of our achievements as an organization. A number of persons who were a part of the first Anguilla United Front government are not in politics anymore. But I want to take this opportunity to recognize the first leader of the Anguilla United Front Party, the first chief minister of our organization, the Honorable Osborne Fleming. I also want to recognize the Honorable Kenneth Romeo Harrigan. And of course, my good friend, the Honorable Eric Leith Reed. All those persons set the foundation for what the Anguilla United Front would be as a government. And as a part of that government in 2000, I feel proud to be able from time to time to call on them to get the kind of confidence in what we have been doing over the past years so that I can get their approval for my way of thinking from time to time, if for any reason I doubt the decisions that we have been making as a government, I could always call, Osman, what do you think about this? Eric, what do you think about this? Kenneth, what do you think about this? These things are important, and that is why history is important. But I will also ask you to indulge me in this moment to pay respects to 4 of the founding members of the Anguilla United Front that have passed on. The late Sir Emil Rudolph Gums, the late Honorable Leroy Clifford Rogers, the late Julian Russell Harrigan, and the late David Leroy Bryan. I just want you to observe a moment of silence for them, please. Thank you. Because it is indeed important to recall history on occasions such as these. Because on these occasions, we are also creating history. Tonight marks, and you've heard it several times tonight, tonight marks the first time that a woman has been elected leader of the Anguilla United Front, as well as the leader of any major political party in Anguilla. However, I believe it is necessary to make this point, that we are not electing a woman as leader of the AUF party because we want to make history. That is not why we are electing a woman. We are electing a capable leader. Being a woman has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is what that woman represents. So let me tell you what the Honorable Cora May Richardson Hodge, elected member for Sandy Hill and leader of the opposition, means to me. First of all, she prepared herself formally for leadership in all aspects of her life and community through tertiary training in universities all over the world in several fields, the most important at this time being a lawyer, because she also did environmental science at one point in her career. But even though she is my cousin, it was not through that relationship that I came to know her. I came to know Cora through her work as a lawyer. She was negotiating on behalf of her client in the private sector, and I was leading the negotiations on behalf of the government of Anguilla. I was immediately impressed with her. She represented her client very ably, but she also understood the importance of our defense of the issues and interests of the people of Anguilla, because she was very fair in her presentations and her arguments. So, the first attribute of what Cora means to me is, Cora is a professional. She became a member of the Anguilla United Front, to fill the seat of another retiring founding member of the Anguilla United Front, the former Chief Minister, the Honorable Osborne Barrington Fleming. He selected her as a person equipped to succeed him in District Number 2, because you know he was loved in District Number 2. He was also impressed with her qualities as a future leader based on his interactions with her in the private sector as well. So the other aspect of Cora that means something to me, based on that example, is that Cora exudes strong leadership qualities. She was not successful in the 2010 election, but she did not quit. She did exactly what was necessary to let the community know that she was capable and caring, and as a leader would make a difference in the community. And so she led the collaboration on the Hope Center project and other projects, engaging the residents of her district and indeed the entire Anguillan community with the food bank in many aspects of their lives. This, of course, would have led to her election in 2015. She did not quit. Another attribute of Cora to me is that Cora is not a quitter. In the AUF government of 2015, Cora became a part of a team that met to deal with the challenging issues of the indigenous banking crisis, and everybody speaks about that, one way or the other. It was a serious issue that we as the government decided that we could undertake and do so successfully. Cora immediately sought to acquaint herself with the issues so that she could adequately respond to questions raised in the community. And so she became an integral part of the team of public consultation in that issue as well as other issues as well. Because Cora likes to drill down to the facts about every matter with which she deals and on which she must take a position. And that is another attribute of what Cora means to me as a leader. Cora is thorough. In the Captain-Luca negotiations, Cora had a previous matter with one of the several parties in those disputes. And as a result, on every occasion where she felt that her involvement in the debate and discussion constituted an even vague conflict of interest, could even vaguely represent a conflict of interest, Cora recused herself. That attribute of her personality leads me to conclude that Cora is ethical. Cora stands for ethical behavior. As a leader of government business, and based on her training, I entrusted Cora with the responsibility for constitutional and electoral reform. She took the bull by the horns, and as a result, we have made progress in this area that has been languishing for over 20 years. And in particular, among other things, based on her efforts, to put it simply, the grandchildren of Anguilla are automatically Anguillians today. So what do I say about that? Cora is passionate about Anguillians wherever they live. After Hurricane Irma, Cora, as Minister of Labor, was determined to find a way to assist workers in the hospitality sector, especially those who would have suffered extended loss of jobs. Collaborating with Social Security and the Ministry of Finance, she spearheaded the Temporary Unemployment Benefits Initiative, which ensured that affected workers receive some form of compensation during those difficult times. And that attribute is that Cora is caring and creative. Cora is caring and creative. In the Ministry of Home Affairs, Cora took on employers who were opposed to revising the labor laws, especially the issue of one-year contracts for casual workers. She had several consultations on these issues and did not back down until we were able to enact these laws in the House of Assembly. She did not back down. And that says to me that Cora is a fearless leader for what she believes is right. Throughout the course of her administration, on every major project, Cora has been the go-to person on all legal issues affecting our decision as a government, even at times when her position was contrary to the advice of various attorney generals. That was her responsibility as part of our team. Cora fulfilled that role very ably. And so I conclude that Cora is a team player. But above all the qualities to transition into the leadership of the Anguilla United Front, all the qualities that I have outlined, the fact that she's a team player, the fact that she's a fearless leader, the fact that she's caring and creative, the fact that she's passionate about Anguillians wherever they live, the fact that she's ethical, the fact that she's thorough, the fact that she's not a quitter, the fact that she exudes leadership qualities, the fact that she's a professional, all these attributes qualify Cora to transition into the leadership of the Anguilla United Front. And the main one is because she has earned the respect of her colleagues. And I'm quite sure that based on the response she received when she was unanimously acclaimed at the convention yesterday, she has earned the respect of the party faithful as well. And I'm sure that she's earned the respect of everybody, or most persons around Anguilla. And so we conclude, without any doubt, that Cora is our leader for the future. So let us move forward with confidence in the future of the Anguilla United Front under this quality leadership. And let me also take this opportunity to commend our parliamentary opposition, led by Cora, Neil, Cardigan, and Jose, for the excellent work that they're doing right now in the House. Let us give them a round of applause. We can indeed be confident in the future of this transition. I want to personally thank every single member who comprised the Anguilla United Front government in 2015 to 2020. The Honorable Cora Richardson Hodge, the Honorable Evans McNeil Rogers, the Honorable Everly Bradley, the Honorable Curtis Richardson, the Honorable Cardigan Connor. Whatever exists out there, we worked together as a team and we delivered. And we are proud of those achievements. But we must look forward to the future. And with every leadership, with every team, there will be challenges, there will be differences. But at the end of the day, the leadership must be able to embrace all those differences. They must be able to separate every single member of the team and judge them on their own rights and merits. Everybody has something to contribute in different ways. And so moving forward, my advice to the new leadership to continue to exhibit those qualities which have recommended you, in my eyes, to the leadership, but also continue to acquire and learn other qualities of leadership that will come as a result of experience for taking this party and Anguilla and our communities forward in the future. I take this opportunity for you to help me to bring on stage the new leader of the Anguilla United Front. The new leader of the Anguilla United Front.
Get ready for Cora. We voted for Cora. Get ready for Cora.
The Honorable Cora May Richardson Hodge.
Now she out there taking so much licks. Her name is Cora Richardson Hodge, who's setting such good examples. So anything Cora talk, she ready to walk the walk. Hey, Cora, yes, we voted Cora. For a better future. Let me hear you. Sing it, people. Who we jumping for?
Good evening. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help.
One more you want?
Y'all come from the hills?
Yeah. Okay.
My help coming from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. I will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen. Psalms 121. Fellow Anguillians, residents of Anguilla, residents of my beloved District Number 2, I love you. Comrades, good night. I am so humbled to stand before you this evening, and I thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight and sharing this momentous occasion with us. Tonight marks the beginning of another journey of the Anguilla United Front, a journey that I look forward to taking with you. Buenas noches a nuestros españoles hablantes y bienvenidos a nuestra reunión del Frente Unido de Anguilla, Transición 2021 y más allá. In all things, I first give God thanks. Tonight is not just about a new leader taking the reins of the party. It is also about recognizing all of the great leaders and elected representatives of the Anguilla National Alliance, the Anguilla Democratic Party, and the Anguilla United Front Party, who have allowed us to be here today. And I want to especially acknowledge some of those persons who have helped shape and mold me with their insightful thoughts, advice, and support over the years. Firstly, the former Chief Minister, the Honorable Osborne Fleming. Even if he is not physically present tonight, he continues to play an important role in my life and indeed the lives of many of the residents of District Number 2. Secondly, former Minister of Infrastructure, the Honorable Kenneth Harrigan. He is here tonight, and I want to thank him for his continuous support, advice, and encouragement over the years. Former Minister of Education, the Honorable Mr. Eric Reed, an astute and insightful man who says what he means and means what he says. Former Speaker of the House, Mr. David Carty, with his remarkable knowledge of Anguilla's history, thoughts, and views, which he is always ready to share. Anguilla revolutionary hero, the late Mr. Bob Rogers, gone but not forgotten. A man who took me under his wing and saw something in me even before I saw it in myself. And there are still others who may not have been political leaders, but who have played and continue to play an important role in my development. Some are here tonight, some are listening, and I thank each and every one of them. Fellow Anguillians, the reason why I wanted this meeting tonight on these grounds is to pay homage to my father-in-law, the late David Nathaniel Hodge. Hodge was a man who always had Anguilla and its future on his mind. even as he lay on his deathbed, he was urging persons to cast their vote. Even when, as Premier, Mr. Banks visited him, Hodge was more concerned about Anguilla than he was for himself. That was the measure of the man. My own father, Kenneth Richardson, who is here tonight, he has always encouraged me and supported me no matter what I told him I wanted to do. And if anyone knows my father, you know that all you have to do is ask, and he jumps into action. Thanks, Dad. My husband, Willis Hodge, and my daughters, Tay and Sinai. This road is not an easy one, and my husband has had to take up the load at times, and at times the pressure of my being in this profession of service to Anguilla. My cell members, most of whom have been with me from the beginning, and all of whom have helped me to be where I am today, I sincerely thank you. And don't think you are going anywhere, because now we have even more work to do. My District 2 constituency. District 2, you gave me an opportunity to represent you in 2015. And I am humbled that you saw it fit to give me another term as your elected representative in 2020. I would not be here if it were not for you. And I thank you, and I love each and every one of you. There are many persons standing and listening among us tonight who may have not been political leaders, who may not be close family members, who may not even reside in District 2, but who have played a critical role in assisting me over the years. I will not call your individual names, but you know who you are, and I sincerely thank each one of you. But fellow Anguillians, I can give no greater recognition tonight than to the man under whose wings I sheltered during my entire political career. The person who now hands me the awesome responsibility of leading the Anguilla United Front, the former Chief Minister, our first Premier, the Honorable Mr. Victor Franklin Banks. And I've been extremely fortunate to have worked as a Minister of Government under his leadership and guidance. Over the years, I've come to admire and respect Mr. Banks for taking decisive action, especially in times of crisis. We have heard recent reports as to the success of the National Commercial Bank of Anguilla. The future of our indigenous banks was the first critical issue that Mr. Banks had to grapple with as the newly elected Chief Minister in 2015. The decisions made under his leadership would have determined whether or not Anguilla's future included any indigenous bank at all. If we had allowed the banks to fail, we would have not only lost our indigenous banks, but we would have lost the hard-earned savings of over 70,000 depositors between the NBA and the CCB Bank. And we would have lost over $200 million of the Anguilla Social Security funds that were held in those banks. And because of the decisions made under his leadership, today, we have those same Social Security funds being used to help many Anguillians and residents across Anguilla since March of 2020. And under his leadership, we also successfully managed recovery from the devastating effects of Hurricane Irma. And even up to today, we have kept Anguilla safe from COVID-19 as a result of early action and measures initially put in place by the Anguilla United Front. I have seen Mr. Banks forcefully express his views, sometimes angrily, sometimes calmly, but always eloquently. I have seen Mr. Banks shed tears for the future of Anguilla, and the difficult decisions he had to make. I have seen Mr. Banks use his charm and his wit to encourage persons to see his point of view. I have seen him hard and dispassionate and warm and compassionate. He is a statesman and is truly a study in diplomacy. Fellow Anguillians, I have learned so much under the leadership of the Honorable Mr. Victor Banks that it would be remiss of me to allow him to exit the political arena in this capacity without publicly expressing my admiration of and appreciation for him. Thank you, Victor, for all you have done for me, for this Anguilla United Front Party, and for Anguilla. As I take the reins of leadership, I am humbled by the faith and trust that my colleagues and the party have placed in me to lead us forward. Each one of my colleagues possesses unique strengths and talents, and I thank them for their hard work over the years and for their support. During the last election campaign, I spoke about the various accomplishments of the Anguilla United Front as a party, including the ones previously mentioned. Our term in office included major renovations to our hospital, facility, and clinics across Anguilla under the leadership of the Honorable Evan McNeil Rogers, and an upgraded Sandy Ground jetty, just to name a few. I would have also spoken about the accomplishments that took place under my leadership: the Labor Relations Act, new and upgraded schools, the amendments to the immigration laws, so children born in Anguilla of non-Anguillan parents today no longer have to pay for time, and constitutional and electoral reform. And so tonight, I do not intend to spend any time on them. Tonight, I want to tell you that the same zeal that I brought to making important and substantive reform in my ministry between 2015 and 2020 is the same zeal that I bring to being leader of the Anguilla United Front Party. I am committed to ensuring that we create realistic and attainable changes for the betterment of Anguilla. And I want to also let you know that no party has the exclusivity on the word change. It is said that the only thing that is constant is change. There was change during the 2020 general elections, and I am convinced that there will be change again. Fellow Anguillians, this weekend's activities are not just about the position of party leader. This is about charting the course for the Anguilla United Front. It is about charting the course for Anguilla's future. We know the conditions under which some of our people are currently living in our country. And because we are a proud people, we sometimes do not want people to know the extent of our suffering, how we cut and contrive every single day of our existence to make ends meet. I see it. People of Anguilla, I want you to know that I see you. I see each and every one of you. I see the pain. I see the frustration. I see the desire to be more than who we currently are and to do more than what we currently do. This is why I am committed to building a new path, a new vision for the Anguilla United Front. We have to take the strong foundation that has been laid for us over the many years and build on it. We will rebuild the Anguilla United Front with strong, capable, dynamic leaders, both young and experienced men and women who are ready and willing to take on the challenge of service to the people of our beloved country. And I stress the word united because it is said, we are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. And where there is unity, there is always victory. There must and will always be unity, not only among the members of the Anguilla United Front, but across the breadth and depth of Anguilla. We will rebuild with a unified purpose, developing Anguilla and our people in a way in which Anguillians can achieve success, prosperity, and fulfillment right here in our own country. We will rebuild to ensure that our young people, our school children, our young entrepreneurs see a future in their homeland. We will rebuild to ensure that our elderly are truly taken care of and not just lip service paid to them. We want our country to grow, but we want our people to feel that their lives are improving and that they are growing along with the country. A nuestros dominicanos aquí en Anguilla, también quiero que sepan que los valoramos. Valoramos sus pensamientos, sus intereses y preocupaciones. Trabajaremos juntos para asegurarnos de que sus voces también sean escuchadas. The way forward for Anguilla must be inclusive and a recognition of all of the cultures and norms that make us who we are today. Anguilla is continuously evolving, and we must evolve with it. Join me, join us in this evolution. Fellow Anguillians, I reach out to you. It does not matter what color shirt you currently wear. Advancing the country requires the involvement of every single one of us. You can trust and believe that in me, you have a leader who embraces the advancement of all of our people, not just a select few. I am young enough to appreciate the very real concerns of our youth and old enough to understand the plight of our senior citizens. We have work to do. We will now begin that work, assessing where we are and how we can best prepare ourselves and our people for the future. There is hope on the horizon. And so tonight, I stand tall, humbled, and honored to be chosen. And I stand ready to lead the next phase of the Anguilla United Front, the new generation. I end on a note of urgency, and I am issuing a clarion call to our young people across Anguilla to get involved in our rebuilding process, to stay informed, and to understand the difference between campaign promises that could never have been met on the one hand, and the Anguilla United Front steadfast, realistic, and achievable goals for our beloved country on the other hand. Members and supporters of the Anguilla United Front, residents of my District 2 constituency, my cell members, my family and friends, people of Anguilla, I love each and every one of you. We are united. We will succeed, and we will thrive. Good night. God bless you, and God bless Anguilla.
Let me go. Get ready for Cora. We voted for Cora. Get ready for Cora. We voted for Cora. She decided to get in politics. Now she out there taking so much licks.
Let me take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for coming out here this evening. So many of you showed up here to this transition meeting. I'm sure that you would have been satisfied in terms of the overall performances here at the podium and the transitioning of the leadership for the Anguilla United Front, not done in secrecy or in private meetings, but done here openly in public. I would like to thank all of those folks who would have participated in the soup and other things that are taking place here, and to let you know that we will be here. We have another 50 minutes here at 9 o'clock, so we can mix and mingle and socialize with each other. Thank you all very much for coming out, and don't leave right away so that we all can talk. You can meet the new leader of the AUF, other members of the AUF, and of course, Mr. Banks. We all will be here until 9 o'clock. Thank you all very much. See you all soon.
Let me go.